Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and I wanted to share with you the top iPhone charging and battery myths that many of you have brought up as far as a concern or questions, and I thought that I'd share with you those myths. Some of that has to do with what Apple says, and some of it has to do with my experience of iPhones using every iPhone ever made. So this is the first one, we have the newest one, and I've used every one of them and charged them very similarly across all of these different years. So I thought I'd share with you those myths. Now, the first one is when you get a new iPhone and you take it out of the box and you get your new adapter, that you need to plug it in and charge it 100% before using it. And that's simply not true. Because this is a lithium-ion battery, it has no memory, and it doesn't need to be charged. It does not need to be taught how to charge and how full it is. The operating system knows that because it's intelligent and it's been built that way to look at the battery, know how much capacity it has, and I'll show you that in a moment. Know the capacity and know what it can charge to. So you don't have to charge it 100%. The next thing many people believe is you should never charge your phone unless it's completely empty. And again, it's the same principle here. Because it's a lithium-ion battery, it doesn't matter if it's fully drained or filled. I think a lot of that comes from when there were NiCad batteries or nickel-cadmium batteries, where that was more necessary to fully drain it and then fill it back up. With an iPhone and a lithium-ion battery, you don't need to do that, and it's not a problem, basically, to plug it in anytime, really. And that's the next myth, is that you can't charge it throughout the day. And so you can plug this in whenever you want to or whenever you need to. If it's getting a little bit low like this, go ahead and plug it in. It's not going to make a difference. Now, ideally, a lot of people say that you should charge between 50 and 80%. But what happens is the iPhone regulates that for you, regardless of showing 100% or not. It will keep the battery as long as possible, so that you can use it as long as possible, but also sustain the battery life altogether. The next myth, and this one I hear a lot, is that you shouldn't charge overnight. And that's definitely not true. The iPhone completely regulates itself. And in fact, I've charged every single iPhone I've known every single night, all night, every night. And I do that because before I go to bed, I set my alarm, plug in the phone, and then go to bed. I wake up, I've got 100%, and I'm ready to go. Now, I've done this with every iPhone, like I said. So I have an iPhone 7 Plus here. I also have an iPhone 6 Plus running iOS 9. And then I also have an iPhone SE. And I want to show you that I've charged these every single night the same way, like I said, and you can actually check the battery life. And Apple says that after 2 years, you should have 80% of your battery life left. And if that's the case, we should have that. Now, what that means is right here, you can see we've got 2,855 milliamp hours. That's the total capacity of the battery. That's what it should be from new. Now, over a year of usage, plugging it in, and this is a 2-year-old phone now, or more than that, but after 2 years of plugging it in and using it just how I normally do, I've got 2,742 milliamp hours left, or 96% of the battery remaining. That's charging it every night and plugging it in as needed, plugging it in my car as I'm driving back and forth to wherever I'm going, and that's really it. Charging whenever I need to. Now, last year I used the iPhone 7 Plus the exact same way. Let's check its battery health. And again, we're at 96.55% after a year. We've got a 2,900 milliamp hour battery and 2,800 left. And that doesn't mean it won't charge to 100%. That just means that it will charge to 100% of whatever the remaining capacity is. So if you've got 2,000 left, if it's charged to 2,000, it will charge to 100%, but it will only be 2,000. So that's what that means, and this is just showing overall wear. Now with the iPhone SE, it's a little bit different. This is about a year and a half old. It came out in about March, and you can see here it's 1,624 milliamp hours, and we've got 1,400 remaining for 86.21%. So that means that we're still above 80%, and it's not 2 years old yet. And this has been plugged in the same way every night, all night. So the next thing is you shouldn't charge with fast chargers or more powerful chargers. And these phones were charged all the same way using an iPad charger. Since the first iPad came out, I've used this charger to charge my iPhone 100% of the time. I don't know that I've ever used the original charger except for on the original iPhone before the iPad came out. And this charger varies in power. If you've got a 10 watt or a 12 watt, there's a couple different ones. This is a 10 watt, but the 10 watt will charge at 2.1 amps or 5 volts. The 12 watt will charge at 2.4 amps at 5 volts. This one is a little bit less powerful, 5 watts at 1 amp or 5 volts. And also, we can now fast charge some devices with a MacBook power brick, and this will charge 29 watts, 14.5 volts at 2 amps. So more voltage, but less amperage. And the problem with more amperage is heat. So if you're in a very hot environment, you may not want to do that all the time, just because the more heat, the lesser your battery life tends to be over time. But if you're in a regular regulated room, whether it's air conditioned, heated, whatever, if you keep it around 70 degrees or somewhere in that range, and you want to fast charge it all the time, that generally won't be an issue unless it's in a big case. So you want to make sure that it's just not super hot while charging normally. It's okay if it gets warm, but it shouldn't be scalding hot that you can't touch it. So if you'd like to check your battery life that way, let me show you how to do that quick. That's Lyrium Info Lite, and you just go to your tools here. Go to your tools, go to battery, go to check battery internal reports, let it run for a minute because this number will probably change and then it will update. So that's really it as far as the myths. Those are the top myths I think that people think about the iPhone battery or charging. And while if you regulate it and you kept it ideally at 80%, you might even get better battery life. But really, if you just don't pay attention to it and you keep your phone for 2 years, maybe even 3 years, you probably won't have to think about it too much. If you keep your phone for 1 year, I wouldn't even think about when to charge. So basically that's it. Hopefully that helps you. And with the new phones like the iPhone 10 or 8 and 8 Plus, I set them on a wireless charger, which is charging basically at the speed of this adapter. The fast charger will charge in between that adapter and this adapter. So those same things hold true for this as well. But if you've got any other questions or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.